Good morning, everybody. It's Barb Katie here, and this is a little bit different than what I usually do. This is a very special and busy week. I'm at the meeting, as is Rick and our fellow board members. So I'm taking the opportunity this Sunday afternoon to pre record what I wanted to share with you today so that you wouldn't think I dropped off the face of the earth. We've been sharing some lessons I learned as a child from stories that my parents read me. And this has really been a fun exercise for me, digging out some old storybooks, some that I read to my children, some that my aunts and uncles shared with me, and just recalling the good times we had late in the evening when I was settling in for bed, because that's when our family used to read stories to the kids. And I'm still in Aesop's Fable today. And what I'd like to share with you are two that I thought differently about than I did the very first time I heard them read to me. And I think, sort of like other stories that your parents read to you when you're little children, you get different messages from them as you grow older and learn more. Winnie the Pooh is that book for me. I loved Winnie the Pooh as a child, but as an adult, I love it just as much. And the messages I hear as an adult from Winnie the Pooh are even better than the messages that I heard when I was a child. This fable today, I have two, is the one of the gnat and the bull. And the story goes that there was a gnat that was buzzing around on the sandy plains in the desert. And this bull buffalo was meandering along. And the gnat got tired, and so he settled down on the horn of the bull and rested for a spell as the bull continued to meander across the plain. After a while, the gnat decides to fly off. But before he left, he buzzes down in front of the bull and gets his attention and asks him if it's okay for him to leave. Well, it shocked the bull, and the bull said, "I didn't even know you were there. So if you want to leave, that's fine, because I didn't even know you were tagging along for the ride." And the lesson at that time that my dad told me was that some people think they're a heck of a lot more important than they are in the eyes of other people, and they get a little bit stuck on themselves. Now, it doesn't mean that that person is insignificant, but they just aren't always as important as they sometimes think they are to the world around them. As an adult, that story meant something entirely different to me. What it meant to me was that I really did not need to worry when I went into a room or got up on a stage to talk to people where there were strangers that did not know me from a hole in the ground, because I wasn't someone that they were expecting great things from, and had already prejudged me to do things a certain way in a certain manner, and that they probably were just like me. They were uncomfortable if they felt they were the center of attention, and that in all probability, other people probably weren't noticing that much because they had their own things going on and were trying to keep a low profile too. And that really relieved me of a lot of pressure when I would go to speak in front of a group of people I didn't know. Was that, they also get uncomfortable and uneasy. But people usually aren't set up to be critical or judge you or find fault with what you do. So sometimes I think, for me anyway, it's really a comfort to not be the center of attention and just keep a low profile and listen and observe and learn from the people around me. Now, the second one, again, I learned something a little different than rereading it as an adult than I did as a child. And this was the fable of the hart and the hunter. And hart is an old English word for a deer. And there was this deer that had gone to take a drink in the river that was flowing in the mountains where he lived. And while he was drinking from the river, he was really admiring his beautiful rack of antlers. They were just spectacular. That was the season that he had 18 points, and he just thought he was awesome. But then he looked down into the water, and he noticed how small and weak looking his legs looked in comparison to this huge rack of antlers that he was sporting. Well, about that time, a hunter came upon the riverbank and spotted the deer, and he pulled out his bow and placed an arrow and tried to bring down the deer with the arrow. Well, the deer jumps, runs away into the woods, and when he gets under cover of the trees, he realizes that it was thanks to his slender legs that he was able to survive, that they gave him the power to jump and run and were a very poor target as he galloped away to safety. And while he was looking at his legs and admiring them, he got his antlers caught up in the branches of the trees in the forest. And the hunter caught up with him and managed that time to take him out. And the lesson from that, my dad said, was we often are critical of the thing that is most useful to us. And he gave an example, and the example was that he always hated being quiet. You know, he was a very active kid, and he liked to run around and jump and play and make noise and hang out with his friends. But he also disliked public speaking. And that was sort of interesting because how can you like talking in public? Or how could you like making a lot of noise and yet didn't like to talk in public? Well, later on, I realized that what my dad was really saying was that he liked having friends. And one of the reasons he thought he had friends was because when they would speak, my dad always listened. That was one of his greatest gifts all throughout his life, was to be able to be quiet and let other people speak. And he found through the years that the more infrequently he expressed himself, the more closely people would listen to him when he did say something. In fact, people really seemed to flock around the person who was quiet, and the relationships they formed sometimes seemed to even be more close because what some may see as a weakness in being quiet is a strength because it gives you the opportunity to listen, understand, and hear others. And that's a good way to learn more about the world in which we live. And don't underestimate yourself. The gift of listening is a priceless gift. It's one that can carry us forward in ways we can't even imagine. And it took time for me to grow as an individual, to appreciate how important it is in meetings, which like we'll be having here, uh, to be a good listener, to put aside what your preconceived thoughts are and really hear the ideas, suggestions, and input from others to expand your own understanding and knowledge as you go forward. I know in my Tom's chapter, one of the things I see very often, we will have a meeting that is just time for discussion. And we have a little symbol. It's called a talking stick. And if any of you were in scouting, you may have heard of the talking stick. But the talking stick entitles the person to have it to speak without interruption and have a say in what's going on. And so we go around the room with the talking stick, sharing our ideas, our challenges, our concerns, our hopes and dreams, and then we pass it to another person. That way, everyone has the opportunity to be heard. And very often, I think for us, being able to be heard and understood by our fellow members when so many people do not understand the challenges we face in dealing with our weight is essential to us continuing to make progress and to continue to feel supported by each other. So, those are my lessons from childhood for this week. I'm going to look forward to seeing some others that trigger memories for me and I hope to share them with you next week. Meanwhile, please wish all of us here in Milwaukee on the board a good journey and the ability to keep our ears open and hear what we can do to help serve you better as we go through our time together. You have a wonderful, wonderful time, and I will see you later. Bye for now.